Smurf was 50's everything. His shooter, his protection, his standby guy, he opened doors for him, everything. That was his heart.
Off is a real street gang. Nigga think the G Unit shit started off on some rap.
That's my baby. You understand what I'm saying? Smurf is my baby boy.
When you think of G-Unit, names like Tony Yayo, The Game, and Lloyd Banks probably come to mind. But what a lot of people don't realize is that there were other members, OGs like Domination and Bang'em Smurf, who were there from the very beginning when that name was still about the gang life. But they didn't quite make it to the spotlight with the rest of the crew. They laid the foundation of the G-Unit and saw potential in 50, so they became his go-to guys, handling his messiest, most questionable business. Smurf, in particular, was like 50's shadow, always by his side, known as his right-hand man.
Smurf was 50's everything. His shooter, his protection, his standby guy, he opened doors for him, everything. That was his heart.
Certain people you do trust, and like Smurf, like he knew Smurf was loyal to him, you know? Smurf would have laid down his life for 50 Cent.
But like any wild ride, their story took a sharp turn, and things got messy really quickly.
I don't hoes no more. He just rode through here with mad police. Too fan deep. I don't know what. I got gangsters.
Smurf wasn't just in the music game. He was knee-deep in the streets, selling drugs, gangbanging, and living that risky life. One slip-up landed him in legal trouble. And here's where it all went south. Instead of having his back, 50 reportedly cut ties. This was because of the fact that 50 wanted to steer clear of any gang-related issue, and also a potential RICO case that could have derailed his G-Unit empire before it even took off.
They're going, gang, gang, gang. When I get on the record with them, I'll go, I am not gang gang. I do not gang bang. Give me a homicide right now. I'll take a homicide right now before you give me that.
When Smurf got out and tried to patch things up, he didn't get the apology he might have been hoping for. Instead, 50 doubled down, refusing to take any blame. That was the breaking point. Smurf found an ally in Domination, and the two decided to go their own way and start their own label.
No more, I ain't doing that shit. So I was like, yo, I'm gonna work on my artist right now, Domination.
What followed was a nasty beef that spilled into diss tracks and public drama. But the tension hit a whole new level when Smurf and his crew were embarrassed at a G-Unit show, turning what was already bad blood into an all-out feud. So how did Domination and Smurf begin their story as G-Unit's members? Let's dive into the story. Daniel, better known as Bang'em Smurf, was born in Trinidad and Tobago around 1981. But his story really kicks off when he moved to Southside Jamaica, Queens, before the 90s. That's where he crossed paths with 50 Cent, and the two hit it off immediately. They weren't just friends, they were like brothers. They grew up together, hustled together, and even started a street gang called G-Unit, which later transformed into the legendary rap group. While 50 was chasing his dream of becoming a rap superstar, Bang'em Smurf stayed focused on the streets, dealing crack and building his reputation as a tough, no-nonsense figure. Despite their eventual fallout, Smurf still looks back on their early days with a mix of nostalgia and bitterness. On one hand, he has memories of their tight bond. His son even saw 50 as a godfather. On the other hand, he hasn't shied away from throwing shade at his former friend. It's complicated to say the least. In one interview, Smurf shared, "I grew up with 50. That dude is a good dude. He used to hold my son, cook for me, let me crash on his couch. That was when we had nothing. But once the money came in, everything changed." That pretty much sums up how close they were and how things fell apart when success entered the picture.
Man, me and Yayo, man, started. Where's loyalty at, man? There ain't no loyalty, man. I'm that money except the whole hood.
Let's rewind a bit to when Smurf and 50 were thick as thieves. Around 1999, when 50 founded Hollow Point Entertainment, he gave Smurf a 17% stake in the company. That might sound small, but it says a lot about the trust and loyalty they shared back then. By the year 2000, 50 Cent was recording his debut album with Columbia Records, and G-Unit was still more street gang than rap group. Then everything changed when 50 got shot. The shooter, a bodyguard and friend of Mike Tyson, was off just 3 weeks later, leaving behind a cloud of rumors. Some speculated it was a rival gang, while others whispered that Bangum Smurf was out looking for revenge after 50 landed in the hospital. But even a near-death experience couldn't stop 50. After 2 weeks in the hospital, he retreated to the Poconos to recover and plan his next move. He called a meeting with the key members of G-Unit, laying out his vision to turn the crew into a powerhouse rap group and grow Hollow Point Entertainment into a major label. And of course, Bangum Smurf was all in. It seemed like the dream was just getting started.
50 came down, we had a little meeting and so he was letting me know like, yo, Bangum, man, I need you on my team and I'm about to start a new crew. I'm about to come back heavy, man. I told homie, man, it's an honor, man. Whatever you need done, I can get it done. Because at the end of the day, I'm in the street slinging crack, busting my gun anyway. So if there's money involved and we can get rich, whatever.
For the next couple of years, 50 Cent and Bangum Smurf hustled like crazy to make their dreams come true. By 2002, they dropped the Guess Who's Back mixtape, and that project turned out to be a total game changer. It caught Eminem's attention, and from that point on, it felt like they were unstoppable. Everything seemed to be falling into place for 50 and Smurf to take over the music world. 50 even gave Smurf shoutouts in his early tracks, with one of the most iconic being his feature on Mobb Deep's Bump That. Smurf wasn't just a side character in G-Unit, he was front and center, embodying everything the crew stood for. He was always at 50's side, following him everywhere like a shadow. Smurf even dubbed himself the head of security for G-Unit and had a knack for hyping things up. Even his wild ad-libs and rants at the end of songs left people convinced he was a rapper too. He even popped up in the legendary In Da Club video. But by then, cracks in their relationship were starting to show. Smurf later shared that he and 50 had started Hollow Point Entertainment together, with Smurf owning 17% of the company. He said, "We dropped the Guess Who's Back CD when 50 was still climbing his way back from nothing. Back then, he wasn't signed to Eminem or anything. He was just hustling to recover, and I was right there with him through it all. He must have trusted me enough to hand me 17% of the company." Then, all of a sudden, 50 took off like a rocket. Eminem and Dr. Dre stepped in, and everything just went insane. I don't blame 50 for all of it. Money has a way of changing things fast. Things really started to go downhill after an incident with 50's road manager. Apparently, 50 sent everyone back to the hood for 4 months. And during that time, Smurf tried reaching out to him but never got a response.
He sent me on up. I was in the hood 4 months.
Yeah.
When he sent me on 4 months on top of that. 4 months. No phone call from the nigga, no words, no how this nigga doing, is he okay? No, none of that.
That's when Smurf started teaming up with Domination, who became a strong ally as everything with G-Unit began to unravel. Unfortunately, Smurf ran into more trouble when he got caught up in a case involving reckless endangerment and illegal gun possession. While 50's career was skyrocketing with the release of Get Rich or Die Tryin' going platinum, Smurf found himself stuck in jail with a $75,000 bail. Smurf and his friends back in the hood expected 50 to step in and help out. After all, Smurf had been there for him from the start, but 50 didn't budge. Feeling abandoned, Smurf turned to Domination, who stepped up in a big way. They found a bail bondsman, and Smurf's mom put her house on the line, along with $7,500 to get him out.
How you not gonna send money to somebody that did, you know what I'm saying, took care of your business? That's your business. You got shot twice. Smurf didn't get shot. We get a bail bonds person that says they'll take the house. Smurf's mother's house had to be put up in order to get him out.
It was a moment that cemented the bond between Smurf and Domination, even as it drove a deeper wedge between Smurf and 50. Before long, Smurf was back on the streets, but he wasn't about to let 50 off easy. He called him up, demanding to know why he didn't help with the bail. 50's excuse? He claimed he'd sent Smurf and the crew back to the hood to get their minds right, because he was fed up with Smurf's constant run-ins with trouble. That explanation didn't sit well with Smurf. It only added fuel to the fire. At first, though, it wasn't all-out war. Instead of firing back, Smurf kept his cool and started focusing on building something of his own. He returned to his roots, teamed up with Domination, and launched their own record label, planning to make Domination its breakout star. Together, they formed a group called Silverback Gorillas and dropped mixtapes without even mentioning 50 or G-Unit. They were determined to prove they could succeed without their former crew. But things took a nasty turn on August 15, 2003, when G-Unit dropped a mixtape called Unit Radio 3. One track, Sleep by the Lake, Tupac, had 50 taking direct shots at Smurf, and the gloves were officially off.
Hey, nigga. Hey, Smurf, don't think I don't hear you out there talking about me, you little dirtbag. Brush your teeth before you talk about me. Wash under your arms, nigga. You smell like Queensbridge.
Smurf wasn't about to take that lying down. He hit the studio with Domination and put together a remix of Biggie's What's Beef. The track was a direct clapback, and they didn't hold back in calling out 50. The beef kept heating up, and in 2004, it all came to a head at Summer Jam. 50 was on stage doing his thing, but Smurf, Domination, and a whole crew of guys from the hood decided to crash the event. They were in the crowd, taunting 50 and trying to get a rise out of him. At first, 50 tried to ignore them and keep performing, but they just wouldn't let up. Finally, he snapped, grabbed a water bottle, and launched it into the crowd, soaking Smurf and his crew. That was the breaking point. Smurf was furious and tried to jump the barrier to confront 50, but security shut him down before he could get close. Things escalated fast. Smurf's crew started throwing chairs at the stage, turning the whole event into a chaotic mess.
Like 20 minutes into the show, and the decided to come throw water.
Want to be a tough guy.
Throw water on y'all.
This is the first time he came to the right side of the stage.
The back and forth didn't stop there. 50 clapped back with a diss track called These Ninjas Ain't Hood, and even the game jumped in, dropping Unbelievable to fuel the fire. Smurf and Domination weren't backing down though. They returned with another remix diss, this time using Tupac's iconic California Love as the backdrop for their shots at the game and 50. The drama had officially hit its peak, and there was no turning back now. In the thick of all the drama, 50 made a bold move and quietly edged Smurf out of his share in their joint venture, Hollow Point Entertainment. Smurf, not being well versed in contracts or the fine print, didn't push back much at the time. But 50 had plenty to say about it, admitting he took advantage of Smurf's lack of legal know-how to cut him out of the company completely.
Now check this out, this is a gift. The portion of the company I was giving him turned out to be worth, what, $1.3 million? He started to act funny and shit by seeing him acting crazy and stuff like that. I tell him, go to the lawyer's office, you sign the papers. He got $10,000 for you. Take the $10,000, that's that. So he gave back a whole 1.29 in order to take $10,000, and this is because he didn't understand what the fuck was going on.
Even though Smurf lost his piece of the label, he and Domination kept grinding. The Silverback Gorillas, their group, started building a serious buzz on the streets. Their mixtapes were making waves, and people were paying attention. But true to form, 50 wasn't about to sit back and let them rise without interference. Rumors spread that he was using his influence to blackball Smurf and Domination, making it tough for them to book gigs, secure collaborations, or keep their connections intact. Still, the Silverback Gorillas weren't backing down. They dropped their second mixtape, which caught the eye of Fredro Starr, an artist on the come-up who wasn't fazed by 50's clout. Fredro joined forces with the Gorillas, and together they launched GF Records, Gangster Flip Records. Smurf ran the label, while Domination and Fredro took center stage as the main acts. Joining them were Young Dice, a raw talent at just 14 years old, and Big Swing, nicknamed the Beast of the Game. This crew wasn't just hustling. They were gearing up for their official debut, even locking in a distribution deal with Coke Records. But of course, 50 couldn't let them make moves in peace. Word has it that in 2004, he pulled up unannounced at one of Smurf's video shoots, rolling in with an entourage of police in 2 vans. The whole scene turned chaotic. According to some accounts, 50 made a show of himself, talking trash and even allegedly flashing a gun. It was the kind of stunt that could have easily turned violent. Smurf later cleared up what really went down, saying he didn't have no handgun. His hands were outside his pockets, beside his waist the whole time. He had police with him, 2 vans full of them. All he did was jump out of the car. I had my dudes over there, and I was in the trailer when he came. Somebody told me. I think 50 rode by, but I wasn't sure because his windows were tinted. I got hyped like, what? Sun is coming through my spot. I thought he was trying to shut my stuff down. So I went outside and me and 50 made eye contact as he was turning the corner. I guess that's what made him jump out. So I started going crazy. I'm like, son, how you gonna come through here with police? When he jumped out, the police jumped out with him. I'm thinking, what does this dude think he is? George Bush or something? I'm like, son, you not the president. Why are you coming through here with police? Despite all the antics, the tension eventually began to fizzle out. The diss tracks and trash talk still popped up from time to time. But the heat between Smurf and 50 wasn't what it used to be. It seemed like everyone was starting to move on, or at least trying to. But just when it looked like Smurf was getting back on track, life threw him another curveball. Right before the Silverback Gorillas were set to drop their debut album, Smurf got hit with a 3.5-year prison sentence for weapons possession. The charge stemmed from a shootout in the neighborhood, one that happened not long after 50 had sent everyone from Queens back to the streets. For Smurf, it felt like everything he'd worked for was slipping away. But if his story shows anything, it's that he's a fighter, and no setback could keep him down for long. Even in prison, Smurf stayed focused on bettering himself, planning to get his GED and use the time to regroup. But it wasn't easy. 50 was still making things tough, keeping up the blackballing and blocking every move Smurf's crew tried to make. Then in 2005, things got worse. Smurf was attacked by another inmate and ended up in the infirmary with serious injuries. Rumors started swirling that 50 might have had a hand in it, but nothing was ever proven, leaving everyone to wonder if it was just bad luck or something more calculated. With Smurf behind bars, the Silverback Gorillas had no choice but to hit pause on their album plans. It was a tough blow, but Domination wasn't about to let their dream die. He stepped up, determined to keep GF Records alive and kicking. The team poured everything they had into their debut album, God Giveth, God Taketh Away, which finally dropped in October 2005. For Domination and the crew, this was more than just an album. It was their shot at proving they could stand on their own, away from the shadows of 50 and G-Unit. But despite their hustle and heart, the album didn't hit as hard as they'd hoped. It got some attention in underground circles, but it wasn't enough to break through to the mainstream. By 2006, the label's partnership with Coke Records fell apart, leaving the crew at another crossroads. Sitting in prison, Smurf had to watch everything he'd worked for crumble from the sidelines. Loyalty and hard work had been his core values, but seeing life move on without him was tough. Meanwhile, Domination and the team kept pushing. But as the Silverback Gorillas started losing steam, the uphill climb got even steeper. When Smurf got out in 2008, life hit him hard again. He was deported to Trinidad and Tobago. Leaving his kids and the life he'd built in Queens was a blow, and adjusting to a whole new culture wasn't easy, even if the language and people felt familiar. Still, Smurf wasn't about to give up. He put everything into reviving his rap career and his label, Feed the Wolves Entertainment. He dropped 2 mixtapes, K On Sight in 2011 and Blacklisted in 2012, hoping to spark a comeback. But the music didn't take off, and the label struggled to gain traction. Meanwhile, 50 Cent seemed pretty satisfied with how things had turned out. When asked about Smurf's situation, he didn't sugarcoat his feelings.
You understand what I'm saying? Smurf is my baby boy. He's upset and he get confused. When he gets confused, you know what he do? He get angry. Because he doesn't understand.
It was one more reminder of how far their paths had diverged. Stuck in Trinidad with no way to return to the US, Smurf's life took a quieter turn. Even though he missed his family and the opportunities he had back in America, he found a new sense of purpose. Smurf started focusing on helping young people in his community, sharing his story and the lessons he'd learned from his wild and complicated life. He even wrote a book about his journey called Wisdom of a Wolf, the G behind the unit, and has been working on a documentary to dive deeper into his story. These days, Smurf isn't chasing the rap game the way he once did, but he still keeps a foot in the music world. His Spotify profile has around 92 monthly listeners, a nod to his enduring influence. While he's always said he wasn't really a rapper, Smurf is still out there, doing his thing in his own way, and finding meaning in a life that's been anything but ordinary.